The Galactic Concordat Council chamber floated in the darkness of space like a jewel. It orbited the capital world of Proxima Thal, where the most powerful beings in the galaxy gathered to decide the fate of billions. For 10,000 years, the Council had ruled without challenge. Their word was law. Their fleet was unstoppable. Their authority was absolute. High Arbiter Velshara sat on her elevated throne, her insectoid body gleaming under the chamber's lights. Her compound eyes watched the small human standing before the Council. The creature was so tiny, so fragile. It wore a simple black suit and stood with its hands clasped behind its back. This was Ambassador Chen Wei of Earth, representative of a species that had only discovered faster than light travel 50 years ago. "Let me understand this correctly," War Master Krell said, his reptilian voice dripping with contempt. He leaned forward from his seat, scales rippling with amusement. "Your species wants trade agreements? You want to be treated as equals?" His laughter echoed through the chamber, and several other council members joined in. Ambassador Chen did not move. His face remained calm, almost peaceful. He had expected this reaction. "We simply wish to coexist peacefully," Chen said. His voice was quiet but clear. "Earth has resources to trade. We have knowledge to share. We ask only for fair treatment and open borders." Velshara's mandibles clicked together in what passed for a smile among her kind. She had reviewed the human military reports before this meeting. Their ships were primitive metal boxes that moved using chemical explosions. They fought with kinetic weapons, hurling pieces of metal at each other like ancient savages. They had no energy shields, no bio-regenerating hulls, no plasma cannons. It was almost sad. "Ambassador Chen," Velshara said, her voice like wind through dead leaves, "the Concordat has maintained peace in this galaxy for longer than your species has existed. We do this through strength, through order, through a clear hierarchy." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Humanity is welcome in the Concordat, but you must understand your place." "And what place is that?" Chen asked. "A subject race," Krell said bluntly. He stood up, his massive form towering even in holographic form. "You will provide resources. You will follow our laws. You will contribute ships and soldiers to our fleet. In exchange, we will protect you from the dangers of the galaxy." "We came seeking partnership, not subjugation," Chen replied. The chamber erupted in clicking, hissing, and growling laughter. These humans were adorable in their ignorance. Did they not understand reality? The Concordat commanded 3,000 worlds. Their fleets numbered in the tens of thousands. They had weapons that could crack planets, and these soft mammals thought they could negotiate as equals. "Let me show you something," Krell said. With a gesture, he activated a holographic display. Images appeared in the center of the chamber. Images of destroyed worlds, shattered fleets, and conquered civilizations. This is what happens to species that refuse the Concordat's generosity. The Zelthian Empire thought they were strong. We pacified them in 3 months. The Korvax Collective believed their technology was superior. We dismantled their civilization in weeks. You humans have nothing we fear." Chen watched the images without expression. He had seen them before in the briefing files. He knew what the Concordat was capable of. That was exactly why he was here. "Your weapons are toys," another council member added, a floating gas being whose voice bubbled from its containment suit. "Metal projectiles? Chemical explosives? We stopped using such primitive tools 6,000 years ago. One of our bioships could destroy your entire fleet." "Perhaps," Chen said softly. "There is no perhaps," Velshara said. Her patience was wearing thin. "Ambassador Chen, I will make this simple for you. Humanity will join the Concordat as a subject race. You will open your worlds to our governors. You will contribute 20% of your industrial output to the Concordat treasury. You will provide soldiers for our armies. These terms are non-negotiable." "And if we refuse?" Chen asked. Krell's eyes gleamed with predatory hunger. "Then we will pacify you. We will bombard your cities until you surrender. We will take what we want, and humanity will serve the Concordat anyway, but with far less comfortable terms." The chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to the small human standing alone before the greatest powers in the galaxy. Chen stood there for a long moment, his expression unreadable. Then he smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who knew a secret. "We came in peace," Chen said quietly. "We hoped we could leave the same way." You insult us with your arrogance, Velshara hissed. You are nothing. You have existed in this galaxy for barely a moment. You have no idea what true power looks like. Perhaps you're right, Chen said. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small data chip. He placed it on the table before him. This contains Earth's formal response to your ultimatum. You have 3 months to review it and reconsider your position. 3 months? Krell laughed. You presume to give us a deadline? I'm giving you a chance, Chen said. His voice was still calm, but something in his tone made several council members shift uncomfortably. Use those 3 months wisely. He turned and walked toward the chamber exit. No one stopped him. They were too shocked by his audacity. Just before he left, Chen paused and looked back over his shoulder. One more thing, he said. We really did come in peace. I hope you remember that. Then he was gone. The council sat in stunned silence for several heartbeats. Then Krell slammed his fist on his console. That arrogant mammal. Who does he think he is? Velshara's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of anger among her species. She gestured to her military advisor. How long would it take to assemble the 7th Pacification Fleet? 2 weeks, High Arbiter. Do it, she commanded. Send them to Earth. 300 bioships should be more than enough to teach humanity some humility. I want their cities burning within a month. What about the 3 months? Someone asked. They get nothing, Velshara said coldly. They need to learn that the Concordat does not negotiate with inferior species. We crush them, the order was given. The 7th Pacification Fleet, undefeated in 3,000 years of service, began preparations for the journey to Sol System. 300 living warships, each capable of destroying entire armadas, would bring humanity to its knees. None of them understood the mistake they had just made. None of them knew what was waiting in the darkness beyond Earth's moon. The galaxy was about to learn a lesson about humanity that would echo for 1,000 generations. Fleet Commander Zalthor stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Endless Hunger, and felt pride swell in his chest. Behind him, 299 other bioships glided through the void of space like a school of predatory fish. They were beautiful and terrible, each one a living weapon grown in the breeding pools of Proxima Thal. Their hulls could regenerate from damage. Their weapons were powered by their own biological processes. They were perfect instruments of war. This would be an easy campaign. Zalthor had reviewed the intelligence reports on humanity a dozen times. The humans used metal ships, dead things that could not heal, could not adapt, could not grow. They propelled themselves with controlled explosions, burning chemical fuel like barbarians tending campfires. Their weapons threw pieces of metal using more explosions. It was almost primitive enough to be charming. Commander, Sensor Maiden Kiss said from her station. She was a young officer, newly assigned to the 7th Fleet. Her pale blue skin reflected the bioluminescent glow of the command deck. We are 3 days from the Sol system. All ships report optimal health. Excellent, Zalthor said. He pulled up a holographic display of Earth, a small blue marble orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. According to the data, 10 billion humans lived on that single world. They had colonies on 2 other planets and several moons, but nothing significant. The entire human civilization could fit in one system. How quaint. His tactical officer, a hulking warrior named Grex, lumbered over to stand beside him. The plan remains simple, Grex rumbled. We bombard their largest cities from orbit. We destroy their orbital stations. We target their industrial centers. They surrender within days. And if they don't? Kiss asked quietly. Grex laughed, a sound like grinding stones. Then we bombard them more. Humans are soft mammals. They value their lives. They will break quickly. He bared his fangs. Not like the Korvax. Those insect fools fought to the last nest. These humans, they will fold like paper. Zalthor nodded. That assessment matched his own analysis. Humans were emotional creatures who valued individual lives over collective strength. They would see their cities burning and immediately capitulate. The Concordat would install a puppet government, strip the system of resources, and move on. Just another day's work for the 7th Fleet. Commander, Kiss said, her voice uncertain. May I ask a question? Speak. Why did the humans ask for 3 months? What did Ambassador Chen mean when he said to use the time wisely? Zalthor waved a dismissive hand.
Psychological warfare.
A weak species trying to seem strong. They hope to intimidate the Council with vague threats. It is a common tactic among inferior races. They know they cannot win, so they bluff. Of course, Commander, Kiss said, but she did not sound convinced. The fleet pressed onward through the darkness. They passed through human-controlled space without encountering resistance. Occasionally, they detected human ships in the distance, small cargo vessels and civilian transports that fled at the sight of the approaching armada. Sensible creatures. They knew what was coming. 2 days from Earth, Kiss approached Zalthor again. She carried a data tablet, and her expression was troubled. Commander, I have detected some unusual readings near Jupiter. What kind of readings? Energy signatures. Massive ones. And construction debris. Thousands of satellites in unusual orbits. She handed him the tablet. The humans have been very busy in their outer system. Zalthor studied the data. He saw evidence of heavy industrial activity. Mining operations on several moons, large orbital platforms, and strange energy patterns he could not immediately identify. But so what? Even if the humans had built defensive platforms, what could they do against 300 bioships? Defensive preparations, he said confidently. They know we are coming, so they scramble to build weapons. It will not matter. Our ships have faced orbital defenses before. They are annoying, but not dangerous. Yes, Commander, Kiss said. She returned to her station, but Zalthor noticed she kept glancing at her sensors with a worried expression. On the final day of approach, the 7th Fleet crossed into the Sol system. They moved past the outer planets, gas giants with their rings and moons, and accelerated toward the inner system. Earth grew larger on their displays. Zalthor could see the blue oceans, the green continents, the white clouds. It truly was a beautiful world. A shame they would have to scar it. Open a communication channel, Zalthor commanded. Broadcast on all frequencies. I want every human to hear this. The channel opened. Zalthor spoke clearly and firmly, his words translated into human languages by the ship's systems. Attention, humanity. This is Fleet Commander Zalthor of the Galactic Concordat 7th Pacification Fleet. You have refused the generous terms offered by the Council. You have shown arrogance and disrespect. For these offenses you will be punished. Surrender immediately and unconditionally, or we will begin orbital bombardment of your cities. You have 1 hour to comply. Silence. The communication channel carried only static. They are afraid, Greg said with satisfaction, probably arguing among themselves about whether to surrender. 30 minutes passed. Still silence. Should we open fire? Grex asked. No, Zalthor said. We gave them an hour. We are not barbarians. We will honor our word. Finally, after 58 minutes, the humans responded. A single transmission, audio only, came through the communication system. The voice was female, calm, and utterly without fear. Negative. You have 1 chance to withdraw. Leave our system now or face the consequences. The command deck erupted in laughter. The humans were trying to threaten them? With what, their primitive kinetic weapons? This is your final warning, Zalthor said, struggling to control his amusement. Surrender or die. Request denied, the human voice said. You came to our home. You threatened our families. This was your choice. The channel went dead. Arrogant fools, Greg snarled. Let me burn their capital city. They will learn respect. Advance on Earth, Zalthor ordered. Battle formation. Prepare weapons. We will show them what happens when you defy the Concordat. The fleet moved forward, bioships spreading into attack position. They crossed the orbit of Earth's moon. Nothing stopped them. No defensive platforms opened fire. No human fleet appeared to challenge them. It was almost disappointing. Then Sensor Maiden Kiss screamed. Commander, massive object detected. Emerging from lunar orbit. Zalthor spun to face the main display. His confidence evaporated like water on a hot stone. Something vast was moving out from behind Earth's moon. At first, he thought his sensors were malfunctioning. Nothing could be that large. Nothing could be that dense with weapons. Nothing could generate that much energy. But his sensors were not lying. From behind the moon, a human battleship emerged into the light of Sol. It was 15 kilometers long, 5 times the size of his largest bioship. Its hull was covered in armor plating, weapon systems, sensor arrays, and structures he could not identify. Thousands of point defense turrets tracked his fleet. Hundreds of larger weapons rotated to target his ships. Missile pods gaped open like the mouths of hungry beasts. It was not a ship. It was a fortress. It was a city. It was death itself given form and set loose in the void. The human transmission came again, and Zalthor finally recognized the voice. It belonged to the battleship's commander. "This is Admiral Sarah Okafor of the United Nations starship Unconquerable. You were warned. You have made your choice. Now face the consequences." Fleet Commander Zalthor stared at the impossible thing floating before his fleet. The human battleship Unconquerable hung in space like a moon made of weapons. His sensors were screaming warnings. His tactical officers were shouting conflicting reports. And his own mind refused to accept what he was seeing. "Size analysis," he demanded, his voice cracking. 15.3 kilometers in length, Kiss reported, her hands shaking as she worked her console. "Mass readings are..." "Commander, this cannot be correct. It shows more mass than our entire fleet combined." "Weapons count?" Grex asked, and for the first time since Zalthor had known him, the warrior sounded uncertain. "I cannot get an accurate count," the tactical officer said. "Sensors detect at least 4,000 point defense systems, hundreds of larger weapons, multiple missile batteries, and something else. Energy readings I do not recognize." Zalthor's mind raced. This changed everything. The intelligence reports had been wrong. Catastrophically wrong. Humanity had not been sitting idle for 50 years. They had been building, but why? Why create such a monstrous weapon? The resources required must have been staggering. The time investment was equally enormous. Then he understood. The humans had known. Somehow they had known that first contact would eventually lead to conflict. They had hoped for peace but prepared for war. And their preparation had produced this nightmare. "All ships, battle formation Delta," Zalthor ordered, forcing confidence into his voice. "Surround the target. We still outnumber them 300 to 1. No single ship, no matter how large, can face an entire fleet." His ships moved to comply, spreading out in a sphere around the human battleship. Bioships were designed to work in swarms, overwhelming enemies with coordinated attacks. Surely that would work here. "Commander receiving a transmission from the human vessel," the communications officer said. "Put it through." A holographic image appeared in the center of the command deck. It showed a human female wearing a dark uniform with symbols of rank on her shoulders. Her hair was short and gray. Her eyes were hard as stone. This was Admiral Sarah Okafor, commander of the Unconquerable. "Fleet Commander Zalthor," she said, her voice calm and professional. "I am required by military law to offer you one final chance to withdraw. Turn your fleet around and leave our system. No harm will come to you." "You cannot be serious," Zalthor said, some of his confidence returning. "You face 300 warships. Your vessel is impressive, but you are alone. Surrender now and we will show mercy." Admiral Okafor's expression did not change. "Commander, you do not understand what you are facing. The Unconquerable has been under construction for 40 years. It represents the combined efforts of our entire species. Every advancement in materials, propulsion, weapons, and defense systems we have developed is incorporated into this ship." She paused. "You came to our home. You threatened our children. We will not surrender. Then you will die," Grex snarled from beside Zalthor, "alone and far from help." "I am not alone," Admiral Okafor said quietly. "I have Earth behind me. I have 10 billion humans who trust me to protect them. And I have the Unconquerable." She leaned forward slightly. "You came here expecting an easy victory. You thought we were primitives playing with fireworks. You were wrong." Zalthor felt a chill run through his body. There was something terrifying in her absolute confidence. She did not bluff. She did not threaten. She simply stated facts. "Last chance," Admiral Okafor said. "Withdraw now." Zalthor looked around his command deck. His officers were watching him, waiting for orders. If he retreated now, the Concordat would consider him a coward. He would be stripped of command, possibly executed for cowardice. But if he attacked and won, he would be a hero who defeated humanity's secret weapon. The choice was not really a choice at all. "We did not come here to run away," Zalthor said. "All ships prepare to fire. Target the battleship's engines first. Cripple it, then tear it apart." Admiral Okafor's expression showed something that might have been sadness. "So be it, you were warned." She looked to someone off-screen. "Weapons free, engage. All ships attack." Zalthor roared. The 7th Fleet opened fire. 300 bioships unleashed everything they had. Bioplasma cannons spat streams of superheated organic matter. Acid missiles streaked across the void, designed to eat through any material. Neural disruptors fired waves of energy meant to interfere with electronic systems. The combined firepower was enough to destroy a small moon. The attack struck the Unconquerable from all directions simultaneously. Zalthor watched the displays, waiting for the battleship to break apart under the assault. It did not. The plasma splashed against armor plating that glowed white-hot but did not melt. The acid missiles detonated against ablative layers that burned away, but revealed fresh armor beneath. The neural disruptors found no purchase. The battleship's systems were so heavily shielded that the electromagnetic pulses could not penetrate. "No damage," Kiss reported, her voice hollow with shock. "Commander, we are not hurting it." "Impossible," Greg said. "Nothing can withstand that much firepower." "Increase attack intensity," Zalthor ordered desperately. "Focus fire on one section. Concentrate all weapons on their forward hull." The fleet adjusted, pouring even more firepower into a single point on the battleship. For a few seconds, Zalthor allowed himself hope. Surely this would work. Surely no armor could withstand this much concentrated energy. Then the Unconquerable fired back. Zalthor saw the railgun turrets rotate and track. He saw the massive barrels align. He saw the firing chambers glow with electromagnetic energy. Then the battleship spoke with the voice of thunder. The railguns fired tungsten slugs accelerated to 1/10 of light speed. They were simple weapons, just pieces of metal hurled very, very fast. But at such velocities they carried kinetic energy that made nuclear weapons look like firecrackers. The first salvo hit 40 bioships. Those 40 ships did not explode. They did not burn. They simply ceased to exist. The tungsten slugs passed through them like they were made of fog, and the kinetic transfer ripped apart every molecule. Where there had been living warships, there were now expanding clouds of superheated atoms. Zalthor's command deck fell silent. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. "Report," he whispered. 40 ships destroyed, Kiss said numbly. "Instantaneous. No warning. No defense. They just vanished." "Second salvo incoming," the tactical officer shouted. The Unconquerable fired again. Another 40 ships vanished from existence. Then the missile pods opened, and thousands of missiles erupted from the battleship like a swarm of angry insects. "Point defense, shoot them down," Grex roared. The bioships tried. Their defensive systems opened fire, destroying hundreds of missiles. But there were too many, moving too fast. The missiles reached their targets and detonated. They were nuclear weapons. Each warhead carried megatons of explosive force. The bioship's regenerative hulls were designed to heal from damage, but you cannot regenerate from atomic fire. 23 ships were consumed in nuclear explosions. Their biological systems burned to ash before they could even begin to heal. Then the point defense lasers opened fire. Thousands of them, tracking independently, firing continuously. Every laser was precise, powerful, and utterly merciless. They did not target ships. They targeted escape pods. Zalthor watched in horror as escape pods launching from damaged ships were vaporized by laser fire. The humans were not giving them a chance to flee. They were being systematic, thorough. They were being efficient killers. "Retreat," Zalthor screamed. "All ships retreat. Full speed!" The surviving ships turned and ran. They abandoned formation, abandoned tactics, abandoned everything except the desperate need to escape. Bioships were fast, but the Unconquerable was faster. It pursued them with terrifying speed, its engines defying everything Zalthor knew about propulsion physics. How? How was something so massive moving so quickly? The battleship fired again and again. Railguns thundered. Missiles swarmed. Lasers flickered. Ships died. The Seventh Fleet, undefeated for 3,000 years, was being slaughtered. Finally, mercifully, the attack stopped. Zalthor checked his sensors. The Unconquerable had halted its pursuit. It sat at the edge of its effective range, watching them flee. "Status report," Zalthor said hoarsely. 277 ships destroyed, Kiss said, tears streaming down her blue face. 23 ships escaped. We lost everything." A transmission came through from the human battleship. Admiral Okafor appeared again, her expression hard and cold. "Tell your council," she said. "Humanity tried peace. You chose war. What happened here was your fault. Learn from this. Grow from this. And never ever come back to our system again." The transmission ended. The Unconquerable turned and began the journey back to Earth, leaving the survivors to limp home in shame and horror. Zalthor sat in his command chair and stared at nothing. He had led the Seventh Fleet to their doom. He had witnessed the death of 3,000 years of military dominance. He had learned the true meaning of fear, and now he had to return to the Concordat and explain how humanity had destroyed them with primitive kinetic weapons and atomic fire. Admiral Sarah Okafor stood on the bridge of the UNS Unconquerable and watched the alien fleet approach on her displays. She had known this moment would come eventually. Humanity's first contact with galactic civilization had been peaceful, but she had served in the military long enough to know that peace rarely lasted. There were always those who saw kindness as weakness. "All stations report ready, Admiral," her tactical officer said. Commander James Park had been with her for 15 years, and she trusted him completely. "Good," Sarah said calmly. "Remember the rules of engagement. We disable and destroy military targets only. If they retreat, we let them go. We are not monsters." "Understood, Admiral." Sarah looked at the tactical display. 300 bioships surrounded her vessel in a sphere formation. It was a good tactic against a conventional target. Surround the enemy, attack from all angles, overwhelm their defenses. Against most opponents, it would work. The Unconquerable was not most opponents. Sarah had been involved in the Battleship project since its inception 40 years ago. She had been a young lieutenant then, fresh from the academy assigned to the initial feasibility studies. Everyone thought it was impossible. A ship that large would never be maneuverable. The resource cost would bankrupt Earth. The weapon systems would be too complex to coordinate. But humanity had always excelled at doing the impossible when properly motivated. And the motivation had been simple: survival. In a galaxy of predators, sheep did not last long, so humanity had built itself fangs and claws. The alien commander appeared on her screen. He was trying to sound confident, but Sarah could see the uncertainty in his body language. He knew something was wrong. He just did not know what yet. She gave him one last chance to leave. It was the decent thing to do, the human thing to do. She hoped he would take it. He did not. "All weapons, engage," Sarah ordered quietly. The Unconquerable went to war. The aliens fired first, as she had known they would. Their weapons washed over her ship like rain on a mountain. The ablative armor burned away in layers exactly as designed. Beneath it, the main armor, alternating layers of ceramic, metal, and composite materials, absorbed the heat and energy. Beneath that, the inner hull remained untouched. The damage control teams reported minor ablative loss. Nothing significant. "Return fire," Sarah said. "Railgun's first salvo, 40 targets, fire for effect." The railgun batteries spoke. Each barrel was 60 meters long, using electromagnetic acceleration to hurl tungsten slugs at relativistic speeds. The calculations required were immense, accounting for the target's movement, the projectile's trajectory, even the curvature of space-time at such velocities. But the Unconquerable's computer systems handled it all in microseconds. 40 alien ships ceased to exist. Sarah felt no satisfaction, only grim necessity. Second salvo, another 40 targets, fire. Another 40 ships vanished. The aliens were breaking formation now, trying to scatter. It would not help them. Missile batteries, release sequence alpha, nuclear warheads, proximity detonation. The missile pods opened. Thousands of missiles erupted from the battleship, each one guided by its own targeting system. They streaked across the void, dodging alien point defense fire through random evasion patterns. Most reached their targets. Nuclear fire bloomed in the darkness. Sarah watched ships burn and tried not to think about the living beings aboard them. They had come to her home. They had threatened her world. She was protecting her people. That was all that mattered. "Admiral, the enemy fleet is retreating," Commander Park reported. "Pursuit speed," Sarah ordered. "Continue engagement, point defense systems, target escape pods." Park hesitated. "Admiral, that seems harsh." Sarah turned to look at him. "Commander, we are teaching them a lesson. That lesson needs to be thorough. If we let them escape easily, they will think they can try again with a bigger fleet. We need to make them understand that attacking Earth is not just defeat, it is annihilation." We need to make them afraid. Park nodded slowly. Yes, Admiral. The point defense lasers flickered to life. Each one was designed to shoot down incoming missiles and torpedoes, tracking small, fast-moving objects with perfect precision. Escape pods were easy targets. The lasers vaporized them methodically, one after another. It was cruel. Sarah knew that. She hated it. But mercy now would cost human lives later. Sometimes the kindest thing you could do was to be absolutely merciless. The Unconquerable chased the fleeing ships across the Sol system. The Yamato class, engines powered by a fusion reaction that would have been impossible even 20 years ago, pushed the massive vessel to speeds that defied its size. The artificial gravity systems, adapted from reverse-engineered alien technology and improved by human innovation, kept the crew safe even during extreme acceleration. The railguns continued to fire. Each shot required enormous energy, but the AudioBook battleship's fusion reactors generated more power than a small city. Energy was not a problem. Sarah watched the enemy ship count drop. 200, 100, 50. Cease fire, she finally ordered. Let them go. The weapons fell silent. The surviving alien ships continued to run, their engines burning at maximum. They did not look back. Damage report? Sarah requested. Minor ablative armor loss. The damage control officer reported. One railgun battery showing elevated heat levels. Recommend taking it offline for maintenance. 2 missile pods need reloading. All systems otherwise nominal. Sarah nodded. They had faced 300 warships and suffered nothing more than scratches. The Unconquerable had performed exactly as designed. Open a channel to the surviving ships, she ordered. When the channel opened, Sarah spoke clearly and firmly. She wanted to make sure they understood. Tell your council. Humanity tried peace. You chose war. What happened here was your fault. Learn from this. Grow from this. And never, ever come back to our system again. She closed the channel. It was done. Take us back to lunar orbit, Sarah ordered. Standard formation. Maintain full alert status. As the battleship turned toward home, Commander Park approached her. Admiral, may I speak freely? Always, James. Did we do the right thing? He asked quietly. Targeting the escape pods, that will haunt me. Sarah looked at him for a long moment before answering. In war, there are no right choices, only necessary ones. We could have shown mercy, let them escape easily. But then they would have returned with a larger fleet. More humans would have died. Sometimes the moral choice is to be immoral in the short term to prevent greater evil in the long term. I hope you're right, Park said. So do I, Sarah admitted. So do I. The Unconquerable returned to Earth orbit, where it had been built and where it would remain. The massive shipyards around the moon were already beginning work on sister ships, the Indomitable, the Resolute, the Defiant. Each would be larger than the last, more powerful, more advanced. Humanity had learned the lesson of the galaxy. Predators respected only strength, so humanity would be strong, not because they wanted to conquer, but because they refused to be conquered. Sarah Okafor walked through the corridors of her ship, past the crew quarters where 10,000 personnel lived and worked. She passed the memorial wall, where the names of every human who had died in military service were engraved. She stopped and placed her hand on the wall. We did it, she whispered to the names. We kept them safe. We kept Earth safe. The wall had no new names today. The Unconquerable had suffered no casualties. But Sarah knew that somewhere in the galaxy, 300 alien ships had carried thousands of beings. Most of them were now dead, floating in the void of Sol system. She felt the weight of those deaths. She would carry them for the rest of her life. But she would not apologize for them. They had come to her home. They had threatened her world. She had done what was necessary. That was the burden of command. That was the price of peace. That was the lesson she hoped the galaxy would learn. Never threaten humanity's home. Never threaten humanity's children. Because if you did, the unconquerable would come, and it would show no mercy. The battleship settled into lunar orbit, silent and watchful. A sword sheathed, but never forgotten. A guardian that would never sleep. A promise and a warning written in metal and fire. Earth was protected. The Sol system was safe. And the galaxy now knew that humanity was not prey. They were predators who had chosen peace. But if forced to be, wolves, they would be the most terrible wolves the galaxy had ever seen. The Galactic Concordat Council chamber was different now. The lights seemed dimmer. The air felt heavier. Where once there had been confidence and pride, now there was only silence and fear. High Arbiter Velshara sat on her throne and listened to Fleet Commander Zalthor deliver his report. With each word, her mandibles clicked more rapidly, a sign of distress among her kind. 277 ships destroyed, Zalthor said, his voice hollow. He stood before the council, but he did not stand tall. He looked like a being who had seen the end of the world. The 7th Fleet, undefeated for 3,000 years, was annihilated in 4 hours. Impossible, War Master Krell said, but his voice lacked conviction. He had seen the sensor recordings. He had watched the footage. He knew it was true, even if his mind refused to accept it. Tell us exactly what happened, Velshara ordered. Leave nothing out. So Zalthor told them everything. He described the human battleship emerging from behind the moon. He explained how their weapons had done nothing against its armor. He showed them recordings of the railgun fire, simple kinetic projectiles moving at impossible speeds, erasing ships from existence. He displayed footage of the nuclear missiles, the point defense lasers, the systematic slaughter. When he finished, the council sat in stunned silence. How is this possible? Someone finally asked. Our intelligence said the humans were primitives. They use chemical propulsion. They fight with metal projectiles. They have no advanced technology. They do not have advanced technology by our standards, a science advisor said quietly. But they have perfected what they do have. Their kinetic weapons are crude, but at relativistic speeds, crude does not matter. A tungsten slug at 0.1 light speed carries more energy than our plasma weapons. Their nuclear devices are simple atomic fission, but in space there is nothing to absorb the radiation. The energy release is devastating. They built a 15-kilometer warship, another council member said in disbelief. How? The resource cost alone should have bankrupted their civilization. They have been working on it for 40 years, Zalthor said, since shortly after they achieved faster-than-light travel. They knew this moment would come. They prepared for it. War Master Krell stood up, his scales flushing with anger. Then we sent a larger fleet. The entire Concordat Armada if necessary. We have tens of thousands of ships. One human battleship cannot stand against all of us. Can it not? Velshara asked quietly. She activated a holographic display. Intelligence reports flooded the air. Grainy images of human shipyards, energy signatures from the Sol system, intercepted communications. Our spies have been busy since the incident. The Unconquerable was a prototype. The humans are building 5 more battleships. Each one will be more advanced than the last. The council erupted in clicking, hissing, and shouting. 5 more? How is that possible? There is more, Velshara continued, her voice cutting through the chaos. The humans possess something they call antimatter weapons. They did not use them in the battle. According to our intelligence, they considered it unnecessary. The council fell silent again. Antimatter weapons. Even the Concordat had never successfully weaponized antimatter. The energy requirements were too high. The containment too unstable. If the humans had solved those problems, we cannot fight them, Velshara said finally. It hurt to say those words. The Concordat had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had never backed down from a challenge. But they had also survived for 10,000 years by being practical. We must accept reality. Humanity is more dangerous than we imagined. So what do? Krell demanded. Surrender? Bow before these mammals. We negotiate, Velshara said. Ambassador Chen Wei has requested permission to return to the council chamber. I have granted it. 2 days later, Ambassador Chen stood once again before the council. He looked exactly as he had during his first visit, calm, composed, wearing a simple black suit. But now when he looked at the council members, they looked away. They could not meet his eyes. Ambassador Chen, Velshara said formally, the Galactic Concordat wishes to extend an apology. We acted hastily. We made assumptions that were Incorrect. You threatened my world, Chen said simply. You sent 300 warships to bombard our cities. You came to kill my people. We were wrong, Velshara admitted. The words tasted like poison, but they were true. We offer now what we should have offered before: peaceful trade agreements, open borders, and recognition of human sovereignty. Chen stood silent for a moment. Then he nodded. We accept your apology. We accept your terms. Humanity still wishes for peace with the Concordat. Just like that? Krell asked suspiciously. After what we did, you simply forgive us? We do not forgive, Chen said, and for the first time his calm expression hardened. We will never forget what you tried to do, but we are practical beings. Holding grudges serves no purpose. We would rather have you as trading partners than enemies. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a data tablet. He placed it on the table before him, just as he had done during his first visit. These are our terms, Chen said. Human space is sovereign and inviolate. No Concordat ships enter our territory without permission. In exchange, we will trade technology, resources, and knowledge. We will participate in galactic commerce. We will even provide military assistance to defend against external threats. You would help defend the Concordat? Someone asked in surprise. After we attacked you? We are not petty, Chen said. If a threat emerges that endangers the galaxy, we will help stop it. That is what civilized species do. But make no mistake, if you ever threaten Earth again, the Unconquerable and her sister ships will reduce your fleets to atoms. This is not a threat. It is a promise. Velshara studied the human carefully. He meant every word. Humanity was offering peace with one hand and holding a sword in the other. It was a smart strategy. It was exactly what the Concordat had done for thousands of years. Perhaps these humans were not so different from them after all. We accept your terms, Velshara said. I will draft a formal treaty. The Concordat recognizes human sovereignty. Your space is your own. Thank you, Chen said. He picked up his data tablet. There is one more thing. We have been analyzing your bioship technology. We think we can help improve it. In exchange, we would like access to your faster-than-light communication systems. A technology exchange, if you will. The council looked at each other in surprise. The humans wanted to help improve their ships. After defeating them so thoroughly? Why would you help us? Krell asked. Chen smiled slightly. Because we would rather you be strong friends than weak enemies. A weak Concordat invites external threats. A strong Concordat maintains stability, and stability is good for trade. It made sense. Cold, practical sense. The humans were not driven by emotion or pride. They were driven by logic and self-interest. They had learned to navigate galactic politics in 50 years more effectively than some species did in centuries. We accept, Velshara said. A technology exchange it is. Chen bowed slightly. Then we have an agreement. I look forward to a long and profitable relationship between our peoples. He turned and left the council chamber. This time no one laughed at his back. No one mocked his words. They watched him go with respect and yes, with fear. After he was gone, Velshara addressed the council. Let this be a lesson to all of us. Never again will we assume a species is weak simply because they are different. Never again will we confuse kindness for weakness. The humans tried to be our friends and we forced them to be our teachers instead. What do we do now? Someone asked. We issue a galaxy-wide decree, Velshara said. Human space is sovereign and inviolate. Any species that violates human territory will face the Concordat's wrath. Not because we fear human retaliation, but because we respect human strength. The decree was issued that same day. It became known as the Sol Accord. Every species in the galaxy received the same message. Do not threaten humanity. Do not attack Earth. The consequences would be absolute. Years passed. Human battleships patrolled the trade routes, protecting merchants from pirates. Human engineers shared technology with less advanced species. Human diplomats worked to resolve conflicts before they became wars. Humanity did not conquer the galaxy. They did not need to. They had proven they could not be conquered, and that was enough. The legend of the Unconquerable spread throughout the stars. Children of 100 species learned the story of the great human battleship that had defeated an entire fleet. Some species told it as a horror story. Others told it as inspiration. But everyone told it. Admiral Sarah Okafor eventually retired, but the Unconquerable remained in service. It sat in lunar orbit, a silent guardian watching over Earth. New crews came and went. Systems were upgraded. Weapons were improved. But the ship's purpose never changed. It was a reminder, a promise, a warning. Humanity had come to the stars hoping for friendship. They had found predators instead, so they had become the apex predators, not through cruelty or conquest, but through overwhelming strength tempered with restraint. They were warriors who chose peace. They were builders who could destroy. They were teachers who had learned the hardest lesson the galaxy could offer. And they would never forget it. The unconquerable hung in space like a sword sheathed but never forgotten. It had fired its weapons in anger only once, but that once had been enough. The galaxy had learned. Humanity had taught them. And the lesson would last for 1,000 generations. Never threaten Earth. Never test humanity's patience. Never force the humans to show you what they are truly capable of. Because when pushed to the edge, when their children were threatened, when their home was in danger, humans would do the impossible. They would build mountains of metal and fire them into the void. They would split atoms and unleash the power of stars. They would stand alone against impossible odds and refuse to break. They were humanity, and they were unconquerable.